Okay, thanks again. We'll get going now. My name is Ted Hoornstra. Thanks again for joining us. And as we've been trying to lead up to this, there's several different topics that we want to get to. We're going to try to keep this to 30 minutes. I've got tons of slides and lots of topics to talk. And if at any time you want to ask a question, there is a chat box there. You can type in your questions. And if I don't get to it right away, I will be making sure that I look at it there before we sign off. And certainly you can give us a call or you can arrange a meeting for us. I will type right now in the chat our phone number. It's 727-498-8828. That's our phone number. And we're located here in St. Petersburg, Florida. We meet with people not only on Zoom calls, but over the phone. And you know, if we all wear our masks, then you can come and join us here at our office space, which is just north of downtown here in St. Petersburg. But again, thanks again for joining us today. We've got lots of topics to discuss, so let's get right to it. Let's make sure that this is working the way it's supposed to. There we go. A little bit about myself. I like to call myself a financial advocate because we do lots of different things around here. We don't just sell one product. We don't just sell annuities. We don't just sell stocks, bonds, mutual funds. We don't just do one thing. We do lots of different things. And so hopefully being an advocate for you, we can act in a consulting basis, one that we can help guide you to try to find the most efficient way of investing, reducing fees, help reducing taxes, making sure that you're in the right position to position yourself for success. A little bit about me. I grew up in Iowa. I went to school for business and finance and ended up becoming a sportscaster, a television sportscaster. It took me from Big Ten country over to Alaska, where I actually took Sarah Palin's job. She was a weekend sportscaster at the NBC affiliate in Anchorage, Alaska. And so I took her spot. She helped train me for a little bit. But that's my extent of getting political with her. She was actually known as Sarah Healy back in the day, so I'm dating myself. She later became the vice presidential candidate with McCain. I went from there. I actually won an Emmy Award and went to Texas, and then now ended up here in the Tampa Bay area, helped launch a new channel called Bay News 9 back in the day. But ultimately, after they went through a series of different manager changes, I went back to business and finance, found that I could, instead of reporting the sports, I could actually attend it and have a little bit more or less stress and more enjoyment of my life. And went from Prudential all the way up through Bank of America, and now here I'm independent, and I've been that way since 2009. So I feel like I can provide a whole myriad of different products for you, but I don't sell anything one in particular. So again, I want to set that straight to make sure that you are aware that I'm not trying to sell you anything. Today is more along the lines of trying to educate people. Typically, when I have a meeting, we talk about where we've been, where we're going to go, where we are right now, and where we're going to go. And so where we've been, we can say historically speaking, and I don't want you to get too caught up on this chart too much in the sense that it's got very tiny print. But if you look at the bottom line, that's inflation and where it's been over the last 95 years. The next line up, it's orange, is the bonds and what a growth of $1,000 would have been over those course of those years. The top line is a stock portfolio, and that green line ends up being a balanced portfolio of 60% stocks and 40% bonds. So you can see there's lots of dips along the way, and if we wanted to, we can get a little bit more closely here. In the last 20 years, we've seen a couple different recessions. One was the internet bubble that happened there in 2000. And then another one that was huge, the Great Recession, which happened in 2008 from March until 2009. And then we had a nice bull run. You can see over the course of this last 20 years, that orange line, which was the bonds, was the one that did pretty well for the longest period of time until that bull run happened here in the last 5-6 years. But it does provide more of a predictable outcome. I know rates are low right now, and we'll address that in a little bit. But here again, the last 12 years, as we try to bring this time frame a little bit down, that did include that big dip that happened in the great recession 12 years ago. And here we've bounced back. You can see that top line. If you had it all in stocks, if you had the guts to have that risk tolerance, then you would have been rewarded that way. I don't like to preach any one thing, but I do like that green line, which is the balanced portfolio. And the three things that I really kind of want you to take from this is not necessarily just telling you the stats. I want to tell you that you can't really time the market. You can see there's lots of ups and downs. We're experiencing that now. COVID came and hit us really hard here this last March. And we didn't really even know where we were going to go or how low we were going to suffer at the time. And I think that created a mental problem for us. We have gone back and progressively not only gotten back to where we were before March of last year, but we've outpaced it. Kind of taking advantage of what's happened in the market. Now, you can see that there are dips along the way, and so we will be talking about consistent income later on in this program, but I just wanted to let you know that there's a few things. Not only can you not time the market, there are dips, but I do think that a balanced portfolio is absolutely critical. Trying to find that one for you is a little bit different because every person is different. Their mentality and their psyche about ways that they should invest. Are they conservative? Are they aggressive? Somewhere in between. We got to find a happy medium someplace so you can be successful, or at least have the better chance to be successful. We do have here some software tools, and again, every person is different, but I just wanted to show you what we can do if you were to meet with us. One thing is that here was someone who was saving for retirement. They were about 10 years away, had about $500,000, but they wanted to have $1 million saved by the time they were ready to retire in 10 years. Originally, they said we're saving $1,000 a month. Can we be successful with this plan? And the answer was, well, 68% of the chance, yes. But that also means 32% of the time you would not be successful. And oftentimes that is too much risk for people to have. We made one little tweak with that, and that was increase the amount of savings that they would have leading up to retirement. And that turned out to be a much better result if they were in that savings mode. But you might say, Ted, you know what? I'm already retired. I have a nest egg of money. I don't have the ability to save more money. I'm already in the distribution phase. This is an example of where someone already has $1 million, but they wanted to take out 5%. They wanted an income of $50,000 per year. Now, this is like a flip of the coin. Are you going to make it? Are you going to have money for the end? And we've just kind of put over here in the right-hand side a 30-year time horizon. They're already in $1 million. They want 5% with a balanced portfolio. Again, that's 60-40. Chances are 50% chance or so that you're going to make it, 50% not. What we did was we decided to pull that income from different sources and change it, and you had a much better chance of success. So that well-designed plan increases your probability of doing very well. All we did here was that instead of taking the $50,000 all from that fixed income bucket and what the income that it was producing, we lowered that from a 5% down to 3.6% and was able to increase it by considering the reduced taxation by making a Roth conversion. And we also did have the opportunity to pull some away from the stock portfolio. Just by 1.6% seems pretty small, considering the market can go up or down that much every single day. But just by making that one simple tweak as to what the source is of where your income was coming from, doesn't mean that we're lowering how much you're going to take. It just means that we are altering as to where you are pulling that money from. A much better result, a much better chance for success. And P.S., you don't want a plan that says you got a 100% chance of success, because that means you're too conservative. A good range would be between 90 and 100%, making sure that you've got the opportunity to be a little bit flexible with the way things happen within your life. Whether or not someone passes away, whether or not that you've moved, whether or not that you need a new car. I mean, there's things that change in our lives, and we have to be a little bit flexible with the way in which we are going to spend our money. So with that, we have to talk about some of the things that have impacted us greatly. And number one, it's been the COVID-19. The market dropped initially there in 2020 in March, but it's not as bad as it was just even in 2008, where we lost half of the value of the S&P 500. Again, it's rebounded nicely, but it's taken quite a bit of time. If you are in the mode of needing income, you don't have the ability to absorb some of these big dips in the market. We need to talk about making sure having a predictable outcome, a predictable income within your future. Not only are we dealing with the stuff that is happening in the market, but we are enduring some social unrest, political upheaval. We've gone through some political milestones lately. We went through the whole presidential type of deal. Of course, then Biden came through as the victor. There on January 6th, we had the Capitol being, with the riot and the things going on up there in Washington, D.C. It just seems as though that there's a lot of unpredictable things that are going on in the market. And by the way, I mentioned there the unemployment number. I think that we are going to set records for re-employment, but even if we added 6 million jobs here, which would be a record since 1973, we would need 8 million to get back to where we were prior to the COVID outbreak. So we've got a ways to go, and the new political administration has their work cut out for them for sure. A couple things that happened last year that need your attention and how we can take advantage of that. The Secure Act happened on January 1st of 2000. In essence, it kind of raised that required minimum distribution age, that RMD that you see there in the fourth line, from age 70.5 to 72. It kind of delays the time in which you are required to take your money out. Can you take your money out? Yes. If you're younger than 72, you can take your money. It's your money you can have. It's just that you're going to be required to take it out at age 72. So we need to plan for that event. And also the elimination of that stretch IRA. That's not an official term, but what they were doing in the past was you'd have some money at the end, you'd pass it to your kids, let's say. They were able to stretch that out, taking a combination of your age versus what their age was, a maximum of 10 years, and then they would be able to take that out periodically. And hopefully, if the market did well, then they could just kind of take off the profits and stretch that out. Well, they've gone away with that. And in essence, if you're passing your money down to your kids within the terms of a traditional IRA or a 401k, now you have to distribute that within 10 years. And so there are strategies out there that say that, hey, you know what? Let's take 1/10 of it the first year, 1/9 of it the next, and eventually over the course of the next year, you want to reduce the amount of taxes in which you're paying, or at least, if you're passing it on, the amount of taxes in which your heirs are going to have to pay. The CARES Act then came along in response to the COVID outbreak. So they passed that in late March, and you didn't have to take your required minimum distribution last year. If you wanted to, you could. You didn't have to. But understand, when you do, you pay taxes on it. You pay taxes as if it is income tax. So that's something of which you need to be aware of your required distribution. They said you didn't have to. And they also open the door for you to be able to convert your traditional IRA to a Roth IRA. Now, you do pay taxes on that, but they're avoiding the penalty at this point in time. Why is that important to the government? Because they want tax money. They've given a lot of stimulus checks out. They're talking about providing more. That means probably higher taxes, I'm guessing, because they don't want inflation. They can't just print money. But anyway, you do have the ability to convert your traditional IRA money to a Roth IRA money and avoid the penalty, but you do have to pay the taxes on that. But taxes might be going higher. Another discussion for a little bit later in today's presentation. Rule of 72. I just wanted to kind of talk about the ways in which we can grow your money. The rule of 72 is that if you are growing at a 7.2% rate on growth, you will double your money in 10 years. It also works in reverse. If you get if you get 10% return compounded every year, you're going to double your money in 7.2 years. So there's a few examples there, but again, I'm just telling you that there's ways in which we can grow that. But if 7.2 is what we're shooting for, then that's something of which you can anticipate it doubling after that 10th year. A rule of 100. I hear this a lot. What that basically says is like, how much should we have in fixed income? Bonds, CDs, cash. And they would say, take the number 100 and take away your age. If you're age 60, they would say, okay, 100 minus 60, you should have 40% that's in a fixed income portfolio. More and more, you should be, the older you get, the more you should be reducing the amount of risk. So I would actually say it's more like the rule of 120. Take 120 minus 60, and that probably is how much you should be having inside of your equity portfolio. I think that we're not only living longer, but there are the stats out there that show you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You don't want to be too conservative in the sense. Interest rates are low right now. 10-year Treasury note is only 1.10%. That's 10 years. They'll pay you over the course of that time. My feeling is right now, inflation, which really is under control, let's be honest, at 2.5%, it could go higher, but your interest rate that you're making on CDs is not keeping pace with inflation. So therefore your dollars will be, your buying power is getting diminished. Moving on again here, if you take a market loss, let's say the market drops, let's take the third line down by 20%, your 100,000 is now 80. You actually have to gain 25% just to get back to where you were. So, I mean, the impact of those market losses, it takes a while for you to regain that. And what we're looking for is a more predictable outcome. We want to protect yourself from that downside risk. So here's a little checklist of ways to reduce your taxes and grow your assets during retirement. You know, one thing, we'll touch on each one of these different things, but you want to analyze your portfolio, make sure that you are in a good place when it comes to risk. We want you to be able to sleep at night. We want to make sure your expenses are under control. Fees are a big topic. I mean, there's a fee compression going on right now. Fees are getting less. You can get more for less. So we need to talk about that. And the correlation that you have, you don't want to double up on lots of different things. You don't want to do it on growth stocks versus, value stocks. You don't want to have too many small caps. You don't want to have too many treasury bonds. You just want to make sure you have a diversified portfolio. And quickly going down this list, you want to assess your income needs. Basically, we need to plan your budget. You want to invest in a smart financial plan. We've got a little formula coming up for you that you can not only invest with smart risk, but also stay safe. Investing in tax-free accounts. Again, we talked about Roth IRAs or even life insurance within your portfolio that can grow tax-free or tax-deferred in some cases. So we want to make sure that we avoid that taxation bug. And then finally, that 4% rule. Oftentimes, if you are only taking 4% off of your fixed income portion, then chances are you're increasing your you're increasing your percentage of success. So let's quick touch on this, analyzing your portfolio. We can run a Morningstar report for you to make sure that all the things that you have are in balance and making sure that you're owning quality materials. So again, just telling you there's an opportunity for us to have a conversation, whether it's on the phone or in a Zoom call. I'm going to try to put again, here come my glasses. I'm going to try to put this, our appointment book in here. You can actually click on that and try to arrange a quick session. It says 20 minutes. It'll probably go longer, but at least it's a starting point. But anyway, we would like to review your portfolio to make sure that you're in a good place. Understand what you have been making over the last 10 years. We would want to know what has been good, what has been bad with your investment experience. We want to kind of moving down the list. We want to make sure that you are in a good world for your risks that you take, not only in your stocks, but also for your bonds. And also we're talking about a bond replacement strategy here very shortly. You basically want to review the whole thing to make sure that you are in a good spot. Let's go back over here. Your income needs. We need to talk about your budget. It says here, take 2 months total, divide it by 2, and that's basically your monthly expense. I say almost, if you got the better opportunity to go and look at it from a whole year's perspective, if you live here in Florida, you've got that property tax that is owed there in November, and we tend to forget about that. We don't remember that until it actually happens. And then we suddenly have that panic attack. Ted, I need some money right now. And that's fine. We want to make sure that that happens. But, look at that budget and see what you need. And the reason why it's important to start here is because we want to make sure your lifestyle is what it is today or better. So we want to assess what your expenses are so we can back into it and find out how much that we can have on the income side of things. Required minimum distributions. I will blaze through this, but once you start at age 72, every year beyond that, you have to take more and more away from your IRA, your traditional IRA and your 401k plans. I have there on the right, it talks about the penalty. Avoid the penalty. If you don't take your required minimum distribution, they charge you 50%, they being the IRS. So look out for that. And so here's the next slide here. That's the way you avoid it. Make sure that you are taking your required minimum distribution. It is a formula that we have. They take the amount of your IRA money in December 31st of the previous year. They take your age, your gender, who your beneficiaries are supposed to be, and they stick that all into a formula and then find out how much you're required to take that particular year. And by the way, for a woman, it lasts longer because, statistics tell us that women live longer than the men. And so they're not having to take out as a high percentage early on as the guys. So just be aware of that and make sure you avoid it. If you want to know what your number is and how much you got to take out, arrange for a meeting with us sometime soon. Social Security, that is also something of which we can maximize this by waiting a little bit longer. Let's just quickly take that center column there. It says someone who's been averaging $75,000. If they started taking their Social Security at age 62, you see how much they'll be making per month. It's about $1,817. But the little secret is that every year that you wait, you actually will be able to earn an extra 7% more per year that you wait. So again, for someone who waited until age 69 or 70, when you're required to kind of make that declaration, you can make a lot more money. The only little asterisk I would put here is that some people feel as though that, you know what, I'm not going to make it to age 70. I want my money right now. I want to start earning it right now. I want it to go to work for me. That's fine. In fact, I had a client just this last year who was debating it. He says, I've got some kidney troubles. Well, guess what? He died from COVID. And so he was actually glad that he started taking his a little bit early. But the little trick here is that the longer you wait, the more that you can make on a monthly basis. And then here is just another screen that shows you that how much the benefit that you will be receiving. Of course, the average ends up being age 66, where you're at 100% of what you're supposed to be earning, but the longer you wait, the better your return. And we've talked about this, but if you want to know what your number is, just let us know, please. You want to close this retirement gap. We need to take a look at all of your sources of income, whether it's from stocks, bonds, annuities, Social Security. We want to make sure that you are covered, and you are covered after your spouse passes away. It's one of those things we don't necessarily want to talk about, but we need to. It's just something that happens to everybody. We either get sick and ill and need some long-term care, or we need to be faced with us passing away. But for the surviving spouse, we want to make sure that they are covered. Their amount of income will be reduced. In theory, there's less expenses, but at the same time, you need to be prepared for how much less you'll be making once your spouse passes away. Taxes. Nod your head or raise your hand if you think taxes are going to go up. Okay. We've talked about this with our clients on an extended basis. It's just one of those things that a lot of people feel as though that, Ted, taxes are definitely going to go up. We've been also told that, hey, if there was a Democratic president, well, for sure, they're going to be raising taxes. Trump was a guy who was reducing our taxes, and now Biden's going to raise our taxes. Know that the president isn't the person that raises your taxes. They may try to enforce some policy, but at the same time, Biden's now got an advantage, which he's got both houses of Congress in his favor right now. And that was critical when it came to that Georgia vote on January 6th. So they, in theory, can pass what they want. But opinion right here, I'm putting this out there, it's just my opinion. I don't think they're going to raise taxes dramatically the first year. The time where I'm worried about is 2022, because we've had COVID. They don't want to smash everybody with taxes. Some of their biggest contributors, by the way, are big companies, the Amazons, the Microsofts of the world. They've been pouring lots of money into their campaigns. They don't want the taxes raised all that much. We could go on and on for a long period of time. They can, in theory, retroactive go to January 1st of this year to change what's happening now. I think they're only really going to be attacking the upper crust, the top 1%, let's say, of those wage earners. And we look back, and here's our current tax rates. They've talked about, there's government agencies that talk about what they may be raised to. It's something we need to prepare ourselves for, of which ways in which we can not pay taxes versus having it go up. I'm not here to scare you. I don't think it's going to go up to 88%. I do think that eventually across the board that income tax rates will go up. I don't think they're going to go up dramatically, especially because of the COVID crisis. But I think we just need to prepare that at some time here in the very near future, let's say even next year, tax rates will go up. Okay, here's the current list of where you would fall if you were like a single filer, and what your tax rate would be on the income side of things. I'm just letting you know what's out there, and here's what it is if you're married. You look kind of at that center column first to see how much income you're making. You look to the left to see what your tax rate is, and then the calculation is over there on the right. We don't need to belabor this, but these are the tax rates right now, and you can kind of see where you land as to how much is going towards IRS things. So we can skip over some of these taxes. Capital gains tax is different than income tax. We want to make sure that we are aware of that. I do think that they can also increase these things here in the future, but where I think they would attack first, I think they'd actually attack that top one there. If you're making like $500,000, your capital gains tax for selling of stocks, I can see that going up. But I think in the lower tax earners, the middle lower class, I don't think they're going to be raising that all that much. And again, this is assuming a long-term capital gain. Just be prepared for what's going on out there. Invest in a smart financial plan. If you ask someone what they want to make sure that they're growing and that they are not taking any risk in the market. But there's ways in which you have to kind of prioritize what is important to you, whether it's growth, whether or not that you want to have no downside risk, whether or not that you want to lower your fees. Do you have a time horizon? Maybe you've heard about that bucket plan. Here's my bucket for money that needs to be used now. Here's the bucket for like 5 to 10 years from now, like when you want to buy a car, maybe your air conditioning is not going to do well. And your long-term money, the stuff that needs to be out there for the rest of your life, or even a legacy or leaving something behind for your heirs. So we need to discuss all these different things. So you have to decide as to what is most important to you. Here's the formula. A smart plan equals smart risks plus your smart savings and ways to be safe. Okay, so you need to be tactical in the market. One of the fun things that we do is I've got a list of 125 stocks that I feel are having the opportunity to grow. I think that it's not necessarily S&P 500 because we've changed here since the last year. No more are people going to that retail outlet as much as they used to. Now they're buying things from Amazon. Things are being delivered to them. What are the restaurants being more food delivery? There is a shift. Tech ramped up about these things that are pumping out these vaccines. There's definitely a market for things that have the opportunity to grow. I've got that list. Let me know if you want to see what's on it. I've also got a list of 50 exchange traded funds. I'm not a big fan of mutual funds. I love exchange traded funds. Those can be traded throughout the day. This is not your safe money. This is your risky money, so to speak, because the markets can go up and down. But I think that we can be tactical in trying to find good places for it. One place that ends up being something that's for safe things, the fixed indexed annuities. Now quickly, there's a few different types of annuities. There's a fixed annuity, not fixed index, just fixed. It acts like a CD. Rates are horribly low right now. No one's going into those. There's an immediate annuity. I'm not a big fan of those because they offer you great rates right now, but the principal is gone at the end. If you pass away, the insurance company keeps all the principal. There's nothing left for your spouse or for your heirs. So I hear ads on this about how much great rates that are out there. Well, be careful. Those are immediate annuities, and you don't want to have those unless you've got an insurance policy that's going to cover that principal. A variable annuity has mutual funds into those. I was able to get some people into variable annuities with an income rider back in 2008 because they were worried about having any money in the stock market. This way, if I was wrong, it acted like a bond that could make 6%. The fixed indexed annuities is something of which we need to talk about. That is something where it's fixed because the insurance company has taken a portion of your money and they have decided that if we take this part, it can grow over the course of 7 and 10 years to make sure that it grows back all of your principal. Then they take an index, let's say the S&P 500. The index can go down to nothing. They have guaranteed your principal. So therefore, you've got a safe, efficient way of having a guaranteed, predictable income. Again, you don't put all your eggs in one basket, but this is one place of which if you've got the time for it, and I'm talking like 7 years, they can accurately predict your outcome on the back end of things. So you end up fulfilling a good formula here. The smart plan is not only incorporating that risk and what's important to you, the stocks and different types of exchange traded funds, but also where do you keep your safe money? And that's what is something that you really need to rely upon to make sure that that income is coming through. I want you to think of a fixed income annuity as a bond replacement. Bond rates right now are at historic lows. This is one place that you can have your money in there. There are objections to these, like it could be time horizon. I don't want to have my money locked up for 7 to 10 years. Okay, well, there are different types of annuities that are liquid. There are annuities that have no fees attached to them. There's lots of objections to annuities out there. And again, I don't put all my money into an annuity. I'm not going to try to sell you a specific product today. I'm just telling you that this is a way in which you can accurately predict your income for the future. So you're able to eliminate a lot of these fees by doing it. Here's a quick example. Look all the way to the right where you're including a fixed index annuity instead of bonds. Here's an example where they had $600,000 into different stocks and exchange traded funds and $400,000 into a fixed indexed annuity. Well, they eliminated their annual advisory fees, and over the course of 35 years, that saved them over $200,000. I mean, that's shocking, but let alone, what about your average rate of return? It's almost doubled by eliminating those fees that get compounded every single year. So fees are eliminated by going into that fixed indexed annuity. You may ask, how is it that they make some money? Well, what they're doing behind the scenes is taking that index and they're also earning money by putting options on either side of it, above and below it, to make sure they're protecting those assets, but also they're making some money from the dividends that are flowing into there. So let's say the dividend from an S&P 500 is 1.2% or so. They're going to keep that, and that's how they're getting paid. They're taking the risk away from you, but yeah, they're a for-profit company and they're going to make sure that they make some money, but that's their little secret here. I see that I'm already going over on my time, so I'm going to blaze through some of these different things. You want to save a bunch in fees over time? Well, you know, again, there's ways in which we can address that, and certainly it's something we need to talk to about. If you want to, you know, set an appointment with us, you know, please take a look at that link that's there in the chat box and look at our calendar. But you know, fees are a big thing that we need to talk about and ways in which we can reduce it. Roth IRA conversions. First of all, the little terms of a Roth IRA. You can contribute up to $6,000 if you're older than 50, up to $7,000, but you have to earn that much money. If you're already retired, you don't have the ability to put money into your IRA. So how do we have this tax-free Roth IRA? Well, you can do a conversion from your traditional IRA. And again, we've talked about this, but it's one of those things of which you do have to pay the taxes on it now. But if taxes are going up, you're paying tax at a lower level now, and you're going to have tax-free growth. So you can actually be able to become a little more aggressive within your Roth IRA because you've got that ability for it to grow without having to pay taxes on it. So again, want to avoid the fees as well. put that into a fixed index annuity to protect your income in the future. Also, by the way, you would be passing this down to your heirs tax-free. So you'd avoid the death tax, the inheritance tax. Right now, it would land between 45 and 55% that they would have to pay. Not only that, but if it's in a traditional IRA, they're going to have to pay the income based upon the income that they are making. So it's horrible to pass down a tax burden to your heirs. You want to make sure that you can avoid that. Here was just a conversion example, but the bottom line is that you're growing tax free. That's important there. Could they change the Roth rules? They could. On a radio show called the Active Wealth Show, this was it is interesting to me because it was a Georgian representative. He's Republican, granted, but he said the only way that they'll change the Roth rules is if the government turns Democratic. Well, guess what? He said this prior to the special election that happened on January 6th, or I guess it would have been 5th. The results were on the 6th. So could they change these rules? Yes, they could, but you want to get in before they change them. You want to make sure that you have that urgency of making sure that if that is in your future and making a Roth conversion, that you want to do it before they change those rules. Okay, and again, we're talking about a conversion, and it can save over $100,000 easily in taxes and in fees. So you'll want to make sure that you set that appointment up so we can review that and see if it's right for you. So here we've talked about a number of things today, ways to save a bunch of money in taxes, ways to save money in fees. You can make more money on your Social Security if you have the ability to delay that. We don't want you to take that RMD penalty, that 50% penalty. That would be a bad thing. We discussed the Secure Act, which raises the level of the point in which you have to take that RMD, and also the CARES Act, which provided relief back then. They could extend that. I'm not so sure that they will, because the government kind of needs their tax money to avoid that inflation. So, give us a call. Or set an appointment to us. I'm going to quickly look here now as we're kind of coming to a close. I want to see if there's any specific questions. It says, what information do you need to schedule an appointment? Thanks, Sandy, for asking that. The more that you bring to us, the better, the more that you present. The idea is we want to be able to see what is in your portfolio. We want to make sure that that you're not doubling up on some things. We want to make sure you're not too aggressive or you're not too conservative. We have a ton of different software products. We've got 3 of them off the top of my head where we would put your information in and come up with a strategy. It would come up with something of which we would just determine whether or not that you're in a safe zone, whether or not that you have a good mix that's out there specifically for you. What is what's your income need? We need to find out kind of what your budget is. So before a meeting with us, you'd want to know, how much are you spending? How much, do we need to prepare? How much do we need to generate out of your portfolio that you've raised, your hard-earned money? We don't want to see that go away. We want to make sure that it's going back into your pocket in the form of income. So having that budget kind of thought out in advance, we can help you with that. But think about what you're spending. We need to know what you have. We're not trying to basically critique or criticize someone else's work. Some people are doing this on their own. Other people's have the help of a financial advisor. You might end up with 10 different opinions if you talk to 10 different financial advisors. So I'm not here to trash what they've done for you and to try to make sure that I try to sell you on a product. Again, that's not what we do. But we want to make sure that you are in a good place, that you can sleep at night and you have the opportunity to grow. Okay, let's see. Next question. Deborah, thanks for asking. Where's our office? We're here in St. Petersburg, Florida. We're just north of downtown off of 4th Street. Our address is 411. I'm going to try to type that in there. Our address is 411 15th Avenue North, here in St. Petersburg. And the zip is 33704. Next question was about management fees. Okay, we get paid a few different ways. One is by consulting services. In other words, you can have your assets somewhere else, and if you want our advice, if you want a plan, then we do charge a consulting fee that ranges on how much work we need to do from you. I'm not trying to be cryptic, but I do have a menu that you can fill out and find out how much that would be for you. It typically, on an annual basis, would range anywhere from $600 up to, I've had one that's $10,000. I'm not trying to scare you, but it was a multi-million-dollar client who was up there in age. He needed to consult with his attorneys on every single decision. So we had lots of different meetings, and he passed away this last July, but thank goodness he had the help of a lot of trusted family members, friends, and attorneys. So we would all get together. But we have consulting services. There are some products that have commissions. We would let you know what those are. And then on a management fee basis, under assets under management, we make sure that we keep that below 1%. I think that if you have a mutual fund, oftentimes if it's a stock mutual fund, those fees are higher than 1%. Bonds are less. We want to make sure that you are not overpaying on fees. And I can tell you that typically when we look to see what our fees are compared to other people, we are doing better than what they're offering. So you'd want to compare that. Let's see. You want to work on collect on Social Security. Again, we can help you design what that plan is. If you're already starting collecting Social Security, you're kind of locked in. But we need to know what that is and what we can do to plan for that income, coupled with the other types of investments and what kind of income we can draw from those to make sure that your budgetary needs are being met. We'd want to, again, every person is different, so we'd want to talk about that specifically. Let's see, I've got a message from Peg that I'm reading right now. You're 60 and you'd like to work again. Okay, yes. Again, every person's different, and I've said this probably 10 times today, so I apologize for that. You may be in a situation where maybe you wanted to retire early. Maybe you want to go back to work. Maybe you want to try to raise money until you're truly ready to retire. Maybe you are working out of the home. Maybe you're working in the home. There'd be a lot of different questions that I'd want to ask to make sure that ultimately your income need is being met. But the longer, there's different phases, even on an annuity. If you took a straight up variable annuity, there's the accumulation phase, and then there's the annuitization phase. The annuitization is when you start taking the money away. You want to make sure that, again, some people don't have the ability to accumulate anymore. Here's my money, Ted. How can I make this work for me? And then you begin that annuitization phase. I want to make sure that you have your income. There's only a very small percentage of people who actually take the income from an annuity. And one of the reasons is because it's tax deferred savings. You're not having to pay taxes on it until you take the money away. But when you do, it is prorated based upon how much you're taking versus how much was principal. So the tax penalty isn't all that severe. And I'm going off on a tangent, but I guess the point is that if you're wanting to work from home, the more time you have to accumulate that money, the better off that you're going to be. But having a plan in place is critical. We've had that little checklist of things in which we want to make sure that you're done. But if you have that plan in place and know when you're going to retire, maybe you're already retired, and you know where your income is going to come from, I think that it's a lot better. Then you can deal with the ups and downs of the stock market and not have to worry about it. It's always a fun time, and we've been very successful over especially the last 12 years. We've had a nice, strong bull market. The 80s were great. The 90s were fabulous. Things were splitting and doubling all the time. Then we had that internet bubble, and that was a wake-up call. Then we had the housing thing that created the Great Recession there of 2008 and 9. We learn our lessons, but I think that the market is the market. Is it overvalued right now? I don't think so. The market is at right now, but there is more risk in the stock market, and you have to be aware of that and make sure that you are covered on the other side of things here. Let's see here. I'm going to go back in my questions here, make sure I don't want to miss anybody. Let's see. We talked about our fees. And again, it's unique on those annuities because they've kind of got them built in. We're talking net of fees. And we want to make sure that we minimize what those charges are. We talked about what we need to schedule an appointment. Let's see, I'm reading something from Daniel. Okay. Dan, you've got a specific question, and so I've got the answer for it. I don't want to really share that on a public basis, but there is a way to accomplish what you're looking for. And taking that in small chunks is probably wiser, but you'd want to reposition those funds to make sure. And again, sometimes it's money that's it's out of your control, and you want to bring it on in. And if that's the case, then you'd want to bring it in now while the tax rates are lower, instead of paying a higher tax rate later on. Again, I don't think that I'm not trying to spread fear here or panic, and I'm not trying to make you take action because the tax rate's going up. I do think they will go up. I think they're going to go up gradually. I don't think they're going to happen immediately. I could be wrong. I just think that because of COVID-19, I think that they don't want to have a big shock with taxes hit upon most of the people here in this country. I think they'll go up, but just not this year. You got about a year to play with it before I think they will go up, though. Let's see here. All righty, and I think that about covers most of the questions that I see out there. Again, I will close with, you got to be so careful what's out there, and I appreciate you taking the time to look at what's out there and what your opportunities are. We are a fiduciary here. Our goal is to work for you. And when I left Bank of America, Merrill, that was kind of the eye-opening thing for me. They look at their people as customers, not clients and friends. Most of the people that we have are now our friends and our family members, and we want to take care of them as such. Legally, the word for that is fiduciary. If we put your needs before ours, then we are acting in a fiduciary basis. So we want to make sure that you are being efficient in the way in which you are investing. One of the reasons why I got into this business is that my grandmother, she's passed away, but years ago, she had an advisor that I wouldn't call ethical. It was a woman advisor here in Central Florida, and she was sold an immediate annuity, one of which that she was thrilled because she was making 10% off of that. Well, my grandmother only lived another 2.5 years. And the principal of that all goes to the insurance company when someone passes away. So, I mean, it was gone. The inheritance that my father and my uncles were to receive, they went away. And so it just left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. And then again, I grew up in Iowa, and my dad, he was a Lutheran minister. And I wasn't thrilled with the way in which his pension plan was working. It just didn't really play in his favor. And so we went in there, and fortunately, because of things that we took action upon prior to 2008, when the market fell apart, we were able to not only protect his income, but enhance what his growth opportunity was. And so he was able to use that money, find his retirement home, and live out his days fishing on a lake in northern Minnesota. And that was his quest, is that he wanted to retire in a, he wanted his golden years to be awesome. He passed away when he was 74 years old. And so he didn't have that many years to enjoy those golden years, but we did then, because of the things that we took action upon, we were able to help protect not only his income, his lifestyle, but also my mom's. And so she's living quite comfortably now in Iowa. She lives close to my sister. And so she's able to help take care of my nieces and nephews as well. But, your finances and your portfolio is something you don't want to mess with. I mean, it's got to be safe. It's got to be secure. You got to have a plan, and you have to make sure it works for you. And we want to make sure that we're mindful of taxes, that we are aware of what fees are. You want to make sure that the balance that you have is working for your specific situation. That's why we're here. I'm a financial advocate, and I want to be able to make sure that you are being helped. So, with that, I'm going to check one more time here on the chat. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you taking the some time out of your day to discuss your finances, and hopefully you found some value in this, and maybe if nothing else, some ideas that can help you move forward. And again, if you need any sort of help, give us a call, please, or arrange for a meeting, and we would like to see if there's anything that we can do to help you. Okay, with that, take care. Have a great day. Go Bucks.